Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with the industry's biggest names. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and our guest today is Tarik Davis, who is helping us finish off the Freestyle Love Supreme takeover here on the podcast. If you watched the Tony Awards the other night, of course, it was a little bit strange being behind a paywall at first, but then their performances came out near the end that was publicly broadcast. The whole night was closed out by Freestyle Love Supreme, including Tarik. And in this episode, we get into his imposter syndrome a little bit, which is really, really fun to talk about because everybody's got it and nobody wants to talk about it. But he was next to Wayne Brady and Lin-Manuel and Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth and all these other people that he's looked up to in the community for years. And they were feeling the same nervousness and the same anxiety about performing live that he was feeling. And it was a really reassuring thing he was talking about, showing that kind of everybody just needs to embrace the fact that we all get nervous. Sometimes we all reach a point and we're like, how did we get here? But if you're there in the room, his advice is just go with it. That's the improv yes and. He's got 20 years of acting and improv experience. Freestyle Love Supreme finally made him realize that he's best in his career and in his auditions when he brings his authentic self, when he brings himself to the table. And now, as they say, his career's taking off. The rest is history. Please leave your rating and a review wherever you're listening now. Find me online. Give me a shout out. Let me know you're listening. And now, everybody, please enjoy this episode with Tarik Davis.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Today's guest is an actor and writer based in New York City with a 20-year history of acting, performing improv, and writing comedy. Past experiences include performing for the Upright Citizens Brigade here in New York, Boom Chicago, and Amsterdam, and the Second City in Chicago. He's a member of the longest-running improv team at The Pit, called the Baldwins, and also performs with Baby Wants Candy and Shamilton at UCB in Hell's Kitchen. He's a founding member of the monthly improv show Comedy People's Time and made his Broadway debut in Freestyle Love Supreme, which just returned to Broadway on October 7th. Tarik Davis, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
How you doing?
How you doing? You're coming off of the Tony Awards.
Yes, we are. We're coming off the Tonys. It was a dream. It was, I can't imagine. It was just an absolute dream. It was one of the best days of my life. It's, filled with nerves and anxiety. Absolutely. But, I can't really, I'm struggling trying to put into words of like what it's like to be in a room and Wayne Brady's right here. And Wayne Brady is responsible for me doing what I do. Like I saw him and I had a chance to tell Wayne Brady this, back in 2019, that was my first time being with FLS. Mm-hmm. I hadn't auditioned. It was a whirlwind audition. And, Tommy Kale's like, after the callback, you got the job right. It's very, Tommy's like a very cool, but when he talks to you, it's very intimate. So he gets like, you got the job right. And I was like, oh, and he was like, so what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, I don't know. What am I doing this weekend? And they told me Freestyle was doing a week of shows at the Kennedy Center. And this is the summer of 2019. So, 2 days later, I'm on a train to DC. And I'm like, wow, I've never done the show before. I will be learning the show and doing it on the fly, which is kind of the ethos of what we do. And, I'm coming out of my hotel room and I see down the hall coming out of his hotel room, Wayne Brady. And I know Wayne Brady's doing the show. I know he's doing the show. He has no idea who I am. No idea that we're walking to the same place, walking in the same elevator. And so he gets in and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if you know this, but we're going to the same rehearsal. I'm going to be doing some shows with you. And he was very gracious and nice. And it's like, oh, great, awesome. And then we gets back to that awkward silence as, you know, it happens in the elevator. And then I finally go like, look, man, I just got to tell you, I started doing improv in the 90s, kind of like just as a thing of, in lieu of like finding a show to, you know, to do, thinking that like, yeah, this is fun, but I'm an actor and I need to wait until there's an audition for me to actually have something to do. And not knowing that there would be a future in it. And then I saw him. I saw him on TV being incredible and amazing. And I was like,
Whose Line?
On Whose Line Is It Anyway? And it was incredible to see that, not just see him, but see him as a Black man in something that at the time, and still I think today, but I think those you know, whatever mental barriers are breaking, that people assume that improv is a white art. It is an art for everybody, just like hip hop is. And seeing Wayne Brady be fully authentic, fully himself, fully hilarious, I was like, oh, that's it. Well, maybe I'll stick with this thing. Never in my wildest imaginings thinking, one, I get to do a show with him at the Kennedy Center. And then imagine, again, my surprise, here I am in the room and waiting to perform at the closing act of the Tonys. And, you know, we finish and me and Wayne are holding hands, jumping up and down, going, we're at the Tonys! We're at the Tonys! He's just excited. He's just as excited as I am. This is, oh my God. Like, if I could have flown, man. I could have flown right after that. That's how it was
beautiful. I actually, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about the process that went into writing that closing number, because obviously you had to know, well, I don't know how much advance notice you got of who the winners were. Were you writing it backstage and sort of rehearsing things in real time as the winners were being announced?
Yes, it was so Lynn and our director Tommy Kale they were like, it was a mixture of things. Like there were some things like we knew, all right, we know people are gonna be singing these numbers, so we will be like, you know, we know that Tina Turner is gonna be singing, we know that. But like, you don't know what the acceptance speeches are going to be. You don't know what the funny moments are going to happen in the show. So we were locked in, all upstairs, the whole Looney Tunes gaggle of us just glued to the TV. And like Tommy and Lynn would be like, we're looking at every acceptance speech being like, all right, what's the funny moment? What do we repeat? What can we mine for gold? And that's kind of how it worked. And it was very quick and frantic and like nobody knowing, like it's a very different process for us because, you know, everything we do is completely improvised. And
right.
This was a bit of a mesh of stuff, rehearsed. Like we were all joking, like we've rehearsed more than we ever have for this 4 minutes. And it turned out all right. It turned out to still have the spontaneity, of what we do. And I hope it worked out. We had fun regardless. So
you had 4 minutes on the clock. So obviously it was a planned 4 minutes, but how many times did you run through that 4 minutes?
We ran through it a bunch of the day. Like, just like the beats that we were going to sing. Like that was to me the most anxiety driven. Like I sing, but like, I'm not, I'm on stage with James Monroe Englehart and Chris Jackson and Anissa Folds and Wayne Brady, like singers. And we have the great Ian Weinberger, who's like, a musical director, and he does Hamilton, and he's rehearsing with me. He's like, all right, Tarik, I want you to hit this key, and don't drag here. And I'm like, fam, I literally do comedy bits for a living. But it's also, I'm like so appreciative that like, all right, you're gonna invest the seriousness in me. I'm gonna take this seriously. And if I get to sing a duet with James Monroe Englehart and nobody blinks an eye, all right, I'm not gonna be the one to squeak out. Like, hey, has anybody realized that I'm not supposed to be here?
Well, how do you actually, let's dive into this, because the crew of FLS is like, they've known each other for years. It's I got your back, right? That's the mantra. I got your back. I got your back. So even now, where you are now, you performed with them in 2019. Tommy Kail's like, you got the job, right? Like it's obvious when you walked in, you got the job. And so it sounds though, as you're talking about this last night, as we're recording this, it was last night that you still have a little bit of imposter syndrome, for lack of better. Yeah.
No, that's it. And I openly talk about it. I have therapy about it. It is a real thing with me. However, I will say like last night was definitely it's this weird mental bridge of like, oh no, this is my goofy family. This is my tribe. And I felt that way instantly. I felt that way in 2019 at the Kennedy Center. I felt that way. During our Broadway run, when I made my debut and like I got to do that. But Jelly, Andrew Bancroft, Jelly Donut, we were joking, and I think I'm not alone is the best thing. Like again, seeing Wayne Brady get nervous, get anxious and excited and giddy, and like I think it was James Monroe who asked me, was like, we rehearsed in the Winter Garden for the first time. And James Monroe, we're waiting in the wings to start. And he whispers to Wayne, like, you ever get tired of this? And Wayne goes, never. I just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And I was like, right. We're all theater nerds. We were all like theater nerds in high school. Mm-hmm. And we're all still theater nerds. And everybody is coming from that place of when they hit that stage. And you see it, and not just, I see it definitely in the FLS fam. And I'm getting a little misty about it, but you see it like I'm watching, all these incredible performers rehearse. And you see them still like rehearsing. Like, I may not get it. Let me try my best. And that's when it just makes you realize like all of us still feel like on some level, I hope they like me. I hope I belong here. And the answer is you always do. As soon as you find yourself into that space, and this is the teacher in me talking to anybody listening to this, you always belong there. Especially if you're working and doing everything you can to make sure that you bring whatever you bring to that space. But that imposter syndrome, that other voice is always going to be there too. And for me, he's very loud. He is always looking into the audience and always like, oh my God, there is Bernadette Peters. You've had a crush on her since you were 5. Do not look into the audience. And oh my God, there's Black Thought, one of the best rappers ever. Oh my God, there's John Legend. You're about to imitate him. Do not look at him when you do that. It's part of the beauty of being human. And I'm also very grateful that in our show we get to, and also in the academy what we teach, that dealing with that aspect in a healthy way, processing it, talking about it, we do it in the show. And that has been very helpful for me. The revolution, I think the thing that snaps me out of it is, I'm not on stage playing someone else. It's Tarik Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the big, FLS changed my life. For 20 years, I've been doing this. And for 20 years before I met FLS, it was, you do your slate, and you try to pretend for someone else that you are worthy of approval. And when I auditioned for FLS, that first day, James Monroe was in the room and it was helping with the audition. And it instantly clicked like, oh, I've been improvising for 20 years to get here. I've been improvising for 20 years and I don't have to pretend anymore. I can just play. Oh my God, I can just play. I didn't even care about the outcome. And that was weird and beautiful. I'd never experienced anything like that. And it was the same for the callback. And David and James were there and they played with us. They laughed with us. We were just playing. And if you get the job, awesome. But the fact that it was just going over, a friend's house and just playing with their toys. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, cool. My mom said, I had to come over here. I didn't know what I was going to expect, but we both fucking love He-Man. Awesome. And then then it was just yeah, no, just keep playing He-Man with us. That changed my life. And I realized afterwards, then my friend, my sister, Amber, comes along that same year. She does a show with us. And, she, in that same window, Peacock had officially announced in 2019 that Amber Ruffin would be getting her show on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did our, she came and did Broadway with us. And I've known Amber for over 15 years. And, we do that show, freestyle show, and we're holding the hands for the bow and we get a standing O. And Amber is not an outwardly emotional person all the time. When she cries, you've done something. And so I look over and she's misty and I get misty. And we're taking this bow and it downs on us. It's yo, we've done so many terrible improv shows together. We've been booed and people have walked out. And here we are years later, getting a standing O on Broadway. And it was her Broadway debut. And so we go to a diner afterwards and she tells me about, she's doing the show. And I'm like, so yeah, what's it going to be? And she's like, I don't know. It'll probably be me, our head writer and producer, Jenny Hagel. She was like, it'll probably be me, Jenny, and you figuring it out. And I thought all right, whatever, Amber, sure. Yeah, I'll be whatever. And 2 weeks before we start rolling, she gives me a call so you free on Fridays? And she brought me in as Tarik Davis. Again, here I am as myself. 20 years trying to be an actor, and my two biggest breaks are me. Even when I have that imposter syndrome, the reality is a little too overwhelming for even me to deny. I'm all right, well, these are two very reputable institutions that have vouched for you. Don't deny them. Be an improviser and say yes.
I love that story. That is beautiful. And so you've got a 20-year history of acting and performing improv and whatnot in the city. Have you always tried to go the comedy route, the improv route, or were you ever trying to do put in air quotes, the serious actor type?
Yeah, no, I was totally trying to. That was the type I was going for. Like, that was where I always wanted to go. And, life, I feel like, life, like music or like improv or anything, like, you got to stick with the beat. You got to stick with the groove. And even in high school, all my successes, or my big successes in high school, all my biggest like indicators of like, oh, this is a direction to go in, were comedic. But I was like, Shakespeare, I really want to show people I can act. And, I had those chances and would do well at them. But I think now here I am trying to, be a little bit more self-reflective about this experience that I'm experiencing currently. And, as I just said, like, my biggest successes are about me being me, and me being me, like comedy, alleviating the pain of reality and trying to elevate those moments, still be truthful and authentic, but, elevate us. I'm like, all right, well, if that's more me, then I shouldn't deny that either. But I still, I did so many bad plays in New York.
Kind of a rite of passage.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I love it. And like, I'm so grateful for all of them. I shouldn't call them bad plays, but like, plays that, and like, there are these amazing black box theaters that if you're a New Yorker, you know about them. Some people I'm sure don't, but like Under St. Mark's, The Brick, in Brooklyn, like every theater I've been at, and I've done I did a play about giant dogs. I did a really cool piece called Elephant Dreams, which tried to combine aspects of the Elephant Man and Dumbo. And it was a weird, surreal dance piece. And I played Dr. Treves, and I've done Shakespeare, like in the off park, and all of those help fortify, help build. You meet friends, you meet family. You find out where you can excel. You can find out where your limitations are. And so like doing that in New York was very, very educational, very helpful. And, if I get, if the opportunities ever arose to do something that wasn't comedic, sure. But, I'm very in the space of like, I tell when I'm teaching, I tell people like, look for your fit. FLS was the fit for me. I had to search for it for a long time, but it was a fit and made perfect sense. That's, I think, as an actor, I think that's what you want. I think there's some actors who can, like, you look at someone like Daniel Day-Lewis and Nicole Kidman, who can completely become different people, right? That's fascinating. I don't think I'm that dude. I think like wherever I go, everyone's like, yeah, but you're that goofy guy, right? And I'm like, I am. And so you want to find the fit that fits with that. And then you can possibly surprise people with what else you have to offer.
Well, there's something that I hear a lot talking to people on the podcast is just embrace what makes you unique, embrace what makes you different. And if you walk into an audition trying to be somebody else, most of the time you're not going to do very well.
No, you're not, because you're searching. You're searching for something as opposed to mining what's already there. Like we're all like such every person is such like a wealth of information and experiences. Why invent? You know, just share what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think acting is share what you got with like barbecue sauce. Like, you know, it's like, oh, that is an amazing chicken dish. Oh, what if we put it in the Wild West? Yeah, you could put mesquite barbecue sauce in that. I would be Tarik in the Wild West. I'll just be goofy in the Wild West. But that's how I see it right now. Like, yeah, share what you got. You have everything you already need.
That reminds me of that movie, I forget what it's called, with Seth MacFarlane and Charlize Theron.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what the title of it is, but that is Goofy in the Wild West, and that is just the two of them being friends and saying like, let's make a movie together.
Let's make a movie together. Yeah. And Liam Neeson.
Yes.
Right. No, like that. But that's what it's just, you know, I know, try not to be facetious about it because you see like the investment. Like that was also another, to harking back to Tony's, just like seeing the investment of like, wow, look at this theater. Look at the crew. Everyone is like top of their game. And it's important. And you appreciate it. And you want to honor that. You don't want to waste anybody's money or time. But then there's another part that's like, you know, I'm a kid of the 80s, right? So I'm like, I reduce everything to like, yo, let's play G.I. Joes. Like, can we get somebody to pay with this? And like, hats off to Seth MacFarlane to be like, yeah, I want to just do a Western with my buddies and have fun and goofy. And like, that stuff is needed. That stuff like helps, you know, life. This world is not easy. We were just joking about like some of the pangs of reality, right? So like before we got on, and if you can get together and manifest a dream, a joke, a bit, and make it happen and have fun, I bet that's going to help somebody somewhere like forget about whatever they're dealing with.
It's full circle because you started telling the story about Wayne Brady. So I don't know if Wayne's ever talked about if he's got things to deal with. He turned to comedy that attracted him and inspired you, or inspired probably countless others, right?
Yeah.
But specifically, we're talking to you. He inspired you. You're here now, and now people are going to come and they're going to see FLS. They're going to go to FLS Academy. They're going to take lessons. They're going to watch the shows, and they're going to see, oh, I can. Oh, that man on stage, I can be just like that. I want to be like that.
Yeah, I want to be like that. I can be just like that. And even when you don't think you can, if you follow your passion, follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell would say. Sometimes life will, even if you're not fully convinced, life will be like, well, we are, and take you there. So be ready. But yeah, like that, to me, like there's nothing, it's corny, but it's very magical.
Oh, absolutely.
Very magical.
And that's the whole appeal, I think, of theater in general, because it's people's chosen families. It's a tribe of sorts. Sometimes it's a way to seek validation. Sometimes it's a way to deal with trauma, or a way to deal with lack of love, or you know, an abundance of one thing or an underabundance of another. There's something about the arts and performing that attracts everybody. And then you take that one step further, I think, with improv, and especially the love and the respect that the FLS crew has for each other, and put it all together into this pretty package where there are no mistakes. You cannot make a mistake when you're on stage with you guys.
No, you can't. And whatever you might consider to be a mistake or a trip up is where the gold is. And it presents itself, and he's finding opportunities in those mistakes and finding, oh yeah, there really aren't any. And constantly being surprised. To me, that was the biggest lesson of the Tonys, of seeing heroes. People who I literally, as a kid, young man, grown man, you know, I did not know Lynn before FLS. I knew of him. I knew of FLS. Like, we were doing stuff around the same time. And I'm sure we've I'm pretty sure I met all of these guys, but you know what I mean? But you never really connect.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, like, I'm like joking and doing bits with Lynn. Like, we're joking about movies and like, just like old pals. And then it dawns on me, I'm like, yo, only a few years ago, I was on a bus, broke, listening to Hamilton and crying my eyes out, being like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Yo, I got to meet who wrote this. Not knowing very shortly, I'd have a chance to audition for it. And then that leading to FLS.
And performing alongside that person on one of the greatest stages ever.
Right.
We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for more of the episode. Okay, so take me back then to the audition for FLS, because how did you find out about it? How'd you get connected? And then, like, tell me about, what is the audition? Did they just give you random words and play the games? Like, they say, okay, here's how you play Cypher. Let's go.
Right. Well, the audition was, if I can remember it, I mean,
just tell me all the secrets, because I'm prepping myself here.
Yeah, no, totally. It started out with a Cypher. And I got to say, I was not confident as a freestyler. I've done it because I had to do it, but this will lead into how I got the audition. But we started out with a Cypher, and then just some, after that, we broke into kind of just like some improv scenes, that would, kind of just these musical improv scenes are like, all right, so here's the scene. These two people, it's a mother and her son, and, you're going to rap about how, you feel like, about the situation. I'm doing a very bad job of trying to describe what happened, and I'm realizing it was all a blur, but, and like, Tommy was there, David and James, and I knew some of the people in the room. And so you're doing these scenes after this amazing warm vibe of the Cypher, which carried on for a while. And like the beautiful thing about starting an audition that way is it didn't feel like an audition. It just felt like a warm Cypher. And everybody starts hyping each other up. Like, oh, and like that energy feeds into confidence, and confidence, a big secret of freestyle and improv is just getting past yourself, not blocking yourself, saying yes to yourself. And the warmer you can get in your body and your brain and your voice, the less roadblocks appear on the road. And then next thing you know, like everything starts stringing together, and like, oh, Dip, did I just string that perfect bar? It wasn't perfect, but like, it's better than I ever thought I'd do. And then I did another one. Oh, because that, the person who I'm rapping with is giving me that energy. And that was the secret sauce that FLS put into that audition. Like, James is jumping into the Cypher. David is jumping into the Cypher. Everyone, it's a round table, it's King Arthur's round. Everyone's on the same ground. Everyone will very possibly has an opportunity to play.
You know what, though? This just gave me an idea, and I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but if you ever go off, or say when you go off and start your own serious theater troupe to showcase, have the creative team, or like the people you've already cast, they're in the room to jump up into the scene with the people you're reading with to give them that real energy. Because how many times have you walked into an audition space pumped up, ready to go, and your reader, you can tell your reader just hates being there.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's that's it. You nailed it. Like it was, you know, I've had some in these years of in my career of like looking back and seeing like some of the hard days and valleys. You get an opportunity for a big audition, right? And I would get a few of these. And you said you get pumped up. And I got auditioned for a very big science fiction movie years ago. Very big science fiction. That's all I'll say. You can probably figure it out. It takes place in space. And I'm a nerd. So I was all about this. And so I got ready. I was ready. And I go in and my reader was like, skipping lines. No, not looking at me. And your heart sinks. And you realize like, you feel like you've been tricked. I did not feel tricked. And that, I think, is, even if you don't have an intention of, I think that is what can cause so many people. And the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know if there's anything worse than if someone has a dream and you had some hand in deferring it. Don't trick people. I think it's really wrong to hold an audition when you know none of the people auditioning are getting the role because you're going to give it to someone else. Mm-hmm. Don't trick people. That one audition could ruin somebody, just like that one audition can save somebody. So at the very least, make everyone feel welcome, make everyone feel important, make everyone feel the possibility is real, and be genuine about that. And FLS did that for me. And I felt like they did that for everyone in the room. No one walked away feeling like they lost.
That's gotta be nearly impossible as a casting director. Maybe they get used to it. I don't know. I was gonna say near impossible to see past when a reader brings somebody else down, brings somebody else that you're interested in. And then maybe it was, John Boyega who had a good reader.
I mean, I think you figured it out. Yeah. That was crazy. But John, like, I saw it and I was like, oh, he's perfect for that. But yeah, it was crazy. It's also, this is a game where, John Boyega had a full feature length film under his belt. Mm-hmm. Attack of the Block, which people slept on. And I was like, yo, that movie's dope. And luckily the cast and directors thought so too. But yeah, you're going to prove something. And so, yeah, I think it is beholden for us moving forward to try to alleviate actors of that burden. You don't have to prove anything. You just got to be who you are.
Is it easier for you to take an outline and make comedy out of that, sort of like what happened on the Tonys, or is it easier to start from scratch, like complete improv? Okay, give me a word from the audience. We're going to do a game.
I think for me, it's easier from scratch, just because that's my trend. Like that's my bread and butter, figuring it out on the fly, as opposed to, all right, well, I think about it like, my brain works in movies and cartoons. So I think about like Indiana Jones, like trying to spell the name of God, like half the floor is real, half the floor is not. Like, give me no floor. Like, let me take the leap of faith. That's what I've been doing for a bunch of times. If there's a half floor, like, I'm gonna mess up the name. That was my analogy to try to answer your question. But I want to answer about how I got the audition.
Oh, yes.
So I got the audition because a friend of mine was in town named Jamie Wright, who is really good friends with Anthony Viniciali, who I did not know, but I knew Jamie. I knew Jamie from Boom Chicago. He was our former video director, where I met Amber Ruffin and sort of others. So that's a family over there. And so Jamie was in New York and was like, "Hey, come with me to see the show." And this was right before they were on Broadway. They were in the Greenwich House Theater. I saw it and I was like, "Yo, this show's dope." It reminds me a lot of the show I did it in Amsterdam, production wise, and the fact that it's it's an improv show, but a show.
Mm-hmm.
It's
got very tight guardrails.
Very tight guardrails. We are performing. We know you paid money to see us. You will be entertained.
You will be entertained.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And so I see it and I'm super impressed. And then I hang out with Anthony afterwards. And Jamie is telling Anthony about me as a teacher. Tarik's a great improv teacher. And I found out that they were building the academy. And me and Anthony hit it on immediately. And then we realized he brings up one name and I'm like, "Oh, that's my really good buddy." He's like, "Wait, my really good buddy." And he went through a list of 10, 15 names. And I was like, "Wait a minute, how do we not know each other?" And we're convinced we've either done improv together and did a bad show at some point and you just
blocked it out.
And then we reconnected. And yeah, a few weeks later, he calls me. He was like, "Yeah, we're having these auditions. Come on out." And the rest, as they say, is something that they say.
Yeah. Tommy did the same thing. James Monroe was telling me that he and Utkarsh auditioned at the same time 15 years ago.
Wow.
And it was, Tommy was like, "All right, everybody except James and Utkarsh, please leave the room." And then door shut. And then he's like, "All right." So he just started talking business and next shows. And James was like, "Wait, hold on. Wait, does this mean do we get the job?" He's like, "Well, yeah, of course you got the job." And then then Tommy went back to talking about the next show. Just happens. That's Tommy.
That's Tommy, yeah.
So let's wrap up here with the 3 standard closing questions that I use on every episode. The first one, very simply, is just what motivates you?
What motivates me? I think something that motivates me is the idea of trying to be better every day. The fact of continuing to learn, continuing to be a student, and I saw people tap dancing, and Gregor Hines is my hero, but I don't tap dance. And I was like, all right, I got to learn to tap dance. It's something I wanted to do. I got to learn to do it. And the fact that I'm still able to do that. I'm alive. All right, let's do it. That's another form of magic.
I don't know if Daniel J. Watts gives lessons, but that dude can tap.
Yes, he can.
That dude can tap.
He can. That's a hoofer.
All right. So the next question is, what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
The advice I give to my younger self is you're good enough. You're good enough. You got everything, you are good enough. You will always be good enough. There's never a moment when you are not good enough. Even when you're like, I don't know how to do this, you're good enough. That's the advice I'd give to my younger self and anybody out here. Doubt is a monster, and it's important in some aspects. It's very important to have doubt, but to doubt yourself when your dreams are in reach can be really detrimental. And trying to move that block, I think, is the work.
There was something that I wanted to say. I just remembered that I forgot to say it earlier when you were talking about something similar, is that a lot of successful people become successful because they tried something they didn't know was hard before they started.
Right.
And so to tie that to what you just said, if you get out of your own way, then I think you can be a lot more successful in general, because speaking from experience myself and the people around me, and it sounds like you've got experience with this too, that you start to go down a path that's good and you're like, well, it's probably going to get hard. I think I want to pull back and wait for the sure thing. And then that's when the opportunity's lost.
Yeah. No, you have to embrace I did not want to rap. I did not want to. The job I had in Amsterdam, we would close with raps, freestyle raps. I hated it. I was not good at it. And it was a whole thing. And so I would do everything I can to throw a wrench in it. I'd do everything I can to not do that. And I remember when I first got that job, that gig, and that was like my first professional gig, Colton Dunn. I don't know if you know, he was on NBC Superstore. Super funny dude. He's the one who signed me up for Boom Chicago. And he's like, so you're going to have to freestyle rap, right? What? And here it is, almost 20 years later. Wow. I make my living. I make my Tony's debut. Doing that. So embrace the challenge. Embrace the thing that scares you. It's what I'm hearing. Especially if you're hearing a lot of people say that, there's something to it.
Absolutely.
Embrace the thing that scares you.
All right. So the last question then, this is super hard. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you could see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Live show?
Yes.
Oof. One show for the rest of my life, but it's the one show I could see. I'd have to say Jelly's Last Jam with Gregory Hines.
Oh, you love
Jelly's Jam. Yeah, I'd have to see that live. That would be the thing I would see, and I don't think I'd ever get tired of seeing that.
So if I hadn't said live show, what would you see?
If it was a live show, what would I see?
If it wasn't a live show.
If it wasn't. That's a hard question. There's so much stuff Tap, starring Gregory Hines. Look, anytime that movie's on, I watch it. I love that movie. I think that should be a live musical. I just don't know how you do it without Gregory.
Listen, it sounds like you got to learn to tap. I think that's, if I took nothing else out of this interview, it's that you got to learn to tap.
Yeah, no, it seems to be, it's calling me. So I got to put the shoes on and find some wood.
Just do it. All right, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tarik R. Davis. Those are my handles. And those are the places to find me doing what I'm doing.
Tarik with a K, Tarik. You can find me on thetheaterpodcast.com, on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast, on Facebook /official theater podcast. Leave a rating and review wherever you are listening. This has been edited by Well-Rounded Hoodlum Productions. Thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music. And thank you to Tarik for the extremely amazing conversation.
Thank you. I've had a blast. This was so much fun.
Breath, make the world a little colorful.